I would like to begin by stating that which I have continuously expressed, that is, we must learn as a nation to live with COVID. The virus is not going anywhere, especially in the current climate where foreign variants pose additional risks. But the government and its approach must evolve alongside this virus. I would just like to say that I absolutely agree the use of mandatory quarantine, where essential, should remain in place. I wish, however, to highlight and discuss the structure, practice and, of particular concern, the conditions within these quarantine hotels. Foreign travel must, in fact, be resumed, albeit in a safe way. I have previously stated this as well. But I do believe that the most efficient and humane way of doing this is for an emphasis to be placed instead on effective testing and tracing, as I have always stated. The use of mandatory stays at quarantine hotels should be an exceptional measure only, not the norm. I accept that Ireland is in fact at a critical stage in its vaccination rollout and that it is essential that this is not undermined. I also would acknowledge that the risks are being posed by foreign variants is clear. I believe, however, the focus in terms of international travel and re-entry to state should be on PCR testing, with quarantine hotels being used only where it is necessary and all other avenues have been exhausted. Where a mandatory hotel is imposed on an individual in one of these hotels, it is of the utmost importance that this is done so in a humane and ethical manner, as is guaranteed by an individual's rights. In fact, the Government has a responsibility to ensure that inhumane or degrading treatment will not occur in these hotels. It is as simple as having respect for the integrity of these people, which I do not believe is happening as of now. The imposition of these hotels, at its core, very simply, is a deprivation of liberty of an individual. And where a deprivation of liberty occurs, there is strong safeguards provided for in the Constitution which must be followed. Article 40 of the Constitution provides that no individual shall be deprived of their liberty, save in accordance with the law. This has the effect that a deprivation, such as a stay in a quarantine hotel, must be lawful. And whilst I do agree that this is the case, they have in fact been imposed lawfully, the constitutional safeguards in place must be followed, which I believe are being ignored. In fact, as I have previously stated, these hotels have been likened to that of a prison cell. The ICCL, in their briefing on the issue of quarantine hotels, point out the effects of a stay in such a hotel would not only on the individual's right of liberty, but also on the family and the private life of the individual, both on which are strongly protected under our Constitution. The briefing highlights key issues surrounding the conditions of these hotels, which I will draw interest to. There have been reports of concern surrounding the access of fresh air, exercise, quality of food, water when requested and the size of the room, which are of particular importance to families with small children or children with special needs. How can these possibly be concerns of the quality of food and access of water occurring when there is €2,000 cost of a stay? What has the Government done to address this? I do not believe the Government has done anything to address these issues. I would also like to raise the point that the Minister has seemingly taken a reactive approach in creating classes of persons who will not be subject to mandatory quarantine. There have been no proactive responses, no thought or foresight into what class of person may fall outside the scope of a mandatory stay. Instead, the Minister simply places a blanket requirement on the group of individuals and wait until the problem has occurred before addressing it. The simple fact is that the emphasis should be placed on furthering the effectiveness of testing and tracing. An individual should be required to hold a negative PCR test before entry to the state, and proper follow-up must be carried out in terms of tracing. We cannot any longer subject healthy individuals to a 2-week stay in one of these hotels as liberally as we have been. Mandatory quarantine hotels must be used. I do not disagree with this, but only where the risk is extremely high, such as where a variant of particular concern has been detected. We must implement these stays cautiously, with proper scrutiny and only where it is absolutely necessary given the circumstances. I would like to call on the Government to also address the conditions in which these hotels, where they have been highlighted as clearly as an area of concern. We cannot any longer subject our population to these arbitrary stays as flippantly or liberally as we have been seen to. The Government should exhaust all other possible methods before subjecting an individual to hotel quarantine. Just on the issue of unaccompanied minors, Minister, I just wanted to talk to you about that. When these minors come in, TUSLA obviously take these children into care, and they're placed into emergency homes, as they're called. I'm just wondering, what level of care are you undertaking to look after the parents or the individuals in those homes that those unaccompanied minors are going into? Thank you.